to our live stream of Caitanya Caritamrta, and we're reading from Adi-lila chapter 6. So today is Monday, the 23rd of June 2025. So we'll begin our reading. Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tara Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katha Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Priya Sarupe, Daita Sarupe, Prema Sarupe, Sahajavi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swavilasa Rupe. Anapita Chirim Chirat Karuna Varatinokalo, Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam, Haripurata Sundarata Tikatam Vasatipita, Sadah Rudare Kandare Spudatu Vasachinandana. Yam Pravajantam Anapetyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tammayatayo Taravo Vinidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptasya Karmadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhajami Radham Aravindanetram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Bharadram Tato Mamanastikatina Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naimam Charantikam. I'm first of all offering millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Astok Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our dear most Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again I'm offering my millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of our dear most Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami. And to all our Rupanuga, Guru Varg, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Papanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So we've reached our 6th chapter. We've just come through from Guru in the 1st chapter. 2nd chapter was establishing Mahaprabhu as that Swayam Bhagavan. 3rd chapter with the external reasons without calling of Advaita Acharya. 4th chapter is the inner confidential reasons for Mahaprabhu's advent. And then we've just finished our chapter on the glories of Nityananda Rai, Balaram. Nityananda Ram is Bhakta Swarup. He's described as the devotional incarnation. This is Bhakta Swarup, Nityananda Rai. And Advaita Acharya, where we've come to now, is described as the Bhakta Avatar. Bhakta Avatar. He's Mahavishnu. And he's the devotional manifestation. So there's a distinction between the incarnation of devotion and the manifestation of devotion. The manifestation is more all-pervasive, and the incarnation is more, perhaps, there's some distinction here, because this is how they're termed, Bhakta Swarup and Bhakta Avatar. So, on Friday, we left off reading from one of Prabhupada's purports, and he was describing the glories of Advaita Acharya from the texts of the Vedanta Sutra. So, and he described again about Sankaracharya. So now Baladev Vidyabhushan is being quoted because Baladev Vidyabhushan this great Vaishnava philosopher, has written a commentary called Govinda Bhasya. He wrote this commentary in Jaipur to purify the Smarta Brahmins, or the Ramanujas at that time, who did not want Srimati Radhika to stand beside Govinda in Jaipur. So he went to a place called Galta, and then he writes his Govinda Bhasya, because the Smartas had declared that you have no praman to allow Radhika, Krishna's consort, Govinda's consort, to stand next to him outside of Braj. So this treatise, this Bhasya, had to be manifested. So Baladev Vidyabhushan, brilliant, totally brilliant personality, and under the guidance of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he wrote this commentary, and in this commentary he purifies the Sankaracharya doctrine. The Sankaracharya doctrine is very prevalent still at that time, because Sankaracharya had made a deep impression. There are 4 sampradayas, the Shri, the Rudra, Nimbaditya, and the Madhva Sampradaya. These 4 sampradayas are there to offset the teachings of Sankaracharya, which were completely impersonal, Advaitavad. But it took a strong hold in India, in Bharatvash. So these teachings were still prevalent because they're completely impersonal. And unless you have Sadguru, then the impersonal path looks attractive. Until we come in touch with the pure Vaishnavas, the impersonal path seems to be our option, our best option, so to speak, for finding relief from this material struggle. We get encouraged towards the path of liberation. But the path of liberation is liberation from matter, from material matter. But bhakti has nothing to do with matter or the material world. It's beyond there. So we're going to start reading again this commentary. It's quite a long commentary, so I didn't finish it on Friday. So I'm reading in my book. It's on page 590. It's the second page into the commentary of text 14 and 15 together. So if you find out where that is, the verse, text 14 and 15, Maya yache dui amsha nimite upadan. Maya nimita hetu upadan pradan. That's the verse. And this is the commentary that goes along that we were speaking on Friday. So I'm going to start, I'll back up a little bit from where we were on Friday, so we can just get in context again. But basically Baladev Vidyabhushan now is going to be purifying or pointing out the defects in the Sankhya philosophy. And it's quite intense. And it's, I'll start to read and then we'll see how we go. So the great Vaishnava philosopher, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, has very nicely explained the materialistic conclusion in his Govinda Bhasya. As I just said, this Govinda Bhasya had to be established to allow Radhika in Jaipur to stand next to Govinda Dev. Otherwise, we wouldn't have Radhika in Jaipur today. It would just be Govinda Dev. A commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. He writes as follows. The Sankhya philosopher Kapila has connected the different elementary truths according to his own opinion. So he was requested by the Lord to come and propagate this impersonal conception, to bring the Vedic teachings back into India, but to still propagate the Mayavad philosophy. So this is what Sankaracharya's philosophy is about. Material nature, according to him, consists of the equilibrium of the 3 material qualities: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Material nature produces the material energy. You see, this is a defect to begin with. Material nature can't produce anything. Material nature is material. It has no possibility of producing anything. So right from the very beginning, it's like saying 1 + 1 = 3. He's wrong to begin with. So material nature produces the material energy known as Mahat, and Mahat produces the false ego. He's saying basically that the false ego has come from a material nature. The false ego is material, but it hasn't come from that material nature. The false ego is what covers us. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj described of the horror of our complete insignificance, but the false ego is bestowed by Lord Brahma. And these 5, they're called nascent engagements in the 3rd canto, chapter 12, it's describing. I think it's chapter 12 or chapter 20. I'm not sure. I'll check. These 5 coverings over the jiva: fear of death, false ownership, bewilderment of consciousness, illusion about the world, and anger after frustration. These defects cover the pure spirit soul. It's in chapter 12, I believe, 3rd canto. So, and Sankaracharya is saying that it's material nature that produces this false ego. The ego produces the 5 objects of sense perception. So we have these are all gifts from the Lord, these sense perceptive elements that we have. There's the 5 acquiring knowledge and 5 for working. And we were speaking about those the other day: the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the skin. These are the 5 knowledge acquiring elements, or senses, knowledge acquiring senses. And then there's the working senses, which is the speech, hands, feet, anus, genital. So he's wrapping his philosophy with part of the Vedic teachings, which makes it sort of compatible to many studious philosophers and pundits. But ultimately, it's a Mayavad conception. The mind and the 5 gross elements. Counting the Purush, or the enjoyer, with these 24 elements, there are 25 different truths. He's considering that this Purush, the enjoyer, is the jiva. That's why it's Mayavad. The non-manifested stage of these 25 elementary truths is called Prakriti, or material nature. We understand that this non-manifested stage is called Pradhan. The Pradhan is the non-manifested stage, and when it becomes impregnated with the seed of time coming from Mahavishnu, then it becomes the Prakriti. But prior to that, it's the Pradhan. The qualities of material nature can associate in 3 different stages, namely as the cause of happiness, the cause of distress, and the cause of illusion. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. The quality of goodness is the cause of material happiness, the quality of passion is the cause of material distress, and the quality of ignorance is the cause of illusion. Just see how brilliantly Sankaracharya has presented this philosophy to hoodwink, to confuse the struggling sadhak with a false conception. This is how the mind can be manipulated by incredibly intelligent personality. Sankaracharya, Shivji, he's the greatest devotee, in fact, but he was deliberately bewildering the living entities on Krishna's order, and we've described the reason why. Because he wanted to bring the Vedic teachings back into India after Lord Buddha had pushed them out with his Buddhistic nirvanic idea. He brought it back in again with the same ultimate conception of nirvana, or impersonal bliss, but he's couching it in much more Vedic terms. The 5 Gyanendriyas, the 5 Karmendriyas, the senses, etc. The Purush, he's using the same terminologies, but it's the Purush, as I just said, represents the Jiva, not Krishna, not the Mahapurush. Our material experience lies within the boundaries of these 3 manifestations of happiness, distress, and illusion. That's the material consciousness. For example, a beautiful woman is certainly a cause of material happiness, for one who possesses her as a wife. But the same beautiful woman is a cause of distress to a man whom she rejects, or who is the cause of her anger. And if she leaves a man, she becomes the cause of his illusion. So all the way through. Prabhupada takes great pleasure in dismantling the Mayavad conception. So whenever he gets an opportunity throughout here, he will do so, because it's so important for us to have these truths in clear perspective and to understand the nature of this world where we live, and what is illusory and temporary and what is the eternal truth. When we start to hear the eternal truth of the personal nature of Krishna, then everything becomes so much more sweet in the heart. This is all in the head, what we're hearing now. The two kinds of senses are the 10 external senses and the one internal sense, the mind. Thus there are 11 senses. You see, this all ties in with the Vedic teachings, but it's got a twist on it. According to Kapila, this is the Mayavad philosopher, impersonal Kapila, material nature is eternal and all-powerful. Originally there is no spirit. You see, everything is based on matter. This is the materialist view today. Everything is based on matter. And matter has no cause. There's no cause for matter, it just happened. Matter itself is the chief cause of everything. Matter has no cause, but matter is the chief cause of everything. So how does that make sense? Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. It is the all-pervading cause of all causes. Matter is the all-pervading cause of all causes, but matter itself doesn't have a cause. So it's absurd philosophy. The Sankhya philosophy regards the total energy, the Mahatattva, the false ego, and the 5 objects of sense perception as the 7 diverse manifestations of material nature. So all this breakdown of the senses, etc., is the totality of material nature, which has 2 features, known as the material cause and the efficient cause. What actually instigates it or triggers it, and what is the effect of that. The Purush, the enjoyer, is without transformation. This is the ultimate soul, the Jivatma, the soul, but without connection to Krishna. But although material nature is inert, it is the cause of enjoyment and salvation for many living creatures. So material nature doesn't have a soul, but still it gives pleasure to the jivas who consider themselves to be material because of the material designation, the material body, the material illusion. We get pleasure from dull matter. This is called Jad Anand. This is the Mayavad philosophy. But although material nature is inert, it is the cause of enjoyment and salvation for many creatures. Its activities are beyond the conception of sense perception. So he's throwing it into a achintya realm. We can't perceive this. It's in the unknown realm. But still, one may guess at them by superior intelligence, guessing. So probability, speculation. This is the nature of Sankhya philosophy, and Baladev Vidyabhushan is brilliantly dismantling it. And Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is brilliantly explaining this illusion. Material nature is one, but because of the interaction of the 3 qualities, it can produce the total energy and a wonderful cosmic manifestation. Because of these interactions of goodness, passion, and ignorance, it creates this cosmic manifestation. Such transformations divide material nature into 2 features, namely the efficient and material causes, the initiating cause and the effect of that. Although at the same time, he is the master, existing separately in each and every body as the emblem of knowledge. So this is the jiva, the Purush. By understanding the material cause, one can guess that the Purush, the enjoyer, being without activity, is aloof from all kinds of enjoyment or superintendence. There's no variety for the ultimate impersonal void conception of the soul, that soul within the nirvana, within the Brahmajyoti. This is what he's saying. It has no there's no relationship. This is the uniqueness or the quality itself of the Brahmajyoti. There's no sambandha, there's no personality there. There's only the individual jivatma. This is what he's describing. Sankhya philosophy, after describing the nature of Prakriti, material nature, and Purush, the enjoyer, asserts that the creation is only a product of their unification or proximity to one another. It's only the unification of the jiva, the soul, with material matter that creates everything. It's nothing to do with Krishna or the Supreme Purush, the Mahapurush. It's quite an amazing philosophy. With such unification, the living symptoms are visible in material nature, but one can guess that in the person of the enjoyer, the Purush, there are powers of control and enjoyment. Again, it's guessing. Again, it's speculation. There's no knowledge. It's not convincing to a man who's educated. When the Purush is illusioned for want of sufficient knowledge, when the Purush is illusioned, when the Jivatma is illusioned, he feels himself to be the enjoyer. And when he is full of knowledge, he is liberated. Liberated from what? Liberated from matter. But there's still no sambandha. It's still in the ocean of the Brahmajyoti. There's no connection with Krishna. There's just the liberation from matter. But there's no bhakti. There's no spirit. Because I've just liberated myself from the material realm, from matter. But where am I left with? I'm left in a void, an empty void of nothing. Because I haven't generated any devotion, any bhakti. You understand? I hope people can follow this. It's quite an amazing commentary here. He feels himself, when the Purush is illusioned for want of sufficient knowledge, he feels himself to be the enjoyer. And when he is in full knowledge, he is liberated. In the Sankhya philosophy, the Purush is described to be always indifferent to the activities of Prakriti. That means aloof to the material energy. There's no interaction, there's no sambandha. Prakriti means material energy here. So they've used the language from the Vedas, Sankaracharya's used that language, to begin the path, the journey back to full personalism. Because Sankaracharya, of course, knows that Ramanuja will come 200 years after him, and then Madhavacharya will come, then Nimbadichi will come, and then Vallabha Acharya will come. These four sampradayas will manifest, and ultimately, of course, Krishna himself will come as Caitanya Mahaprabhu and reconcile all these truths absolutely beautifully. Because all these sampradayas, they were all putting forth theories, basically, of is the jiva that supreme servant, or is he a part of that Lord? To what degree? They proclaimed that the jiva is vibhinamsa tattva, separated part from Krishna. But is he Krishna himself when he's enlightened, or is he a servant of Krishna? And this is inconceivable. This is the philosophy of achintya bheda abheda tattva that Mahaprabhu manifested. This is what Mahaprabhu purifies the four sampradayas. He puts them on track completely. Ramanuja is thinking that it's called Vaishishtavad, Vaishishta Advaitavad. There's a speciality in the oneness. In the oneness with Krishna, there's a speciality there. Madhavacharya is saying, no, it's completely distinct. There's Krishna and the jiva, there's two. But what Mahaprabhu has done, he's reconciled that the Krishna is a part, or the jiva, sorry, is a part of Krishna. So the jiva has the potency to actually develop a relationship with Krishna outside of Aishwarya. in the Madhurya realm. This is what Mahaprabhu has established. He's come to establish Braja Prem, Braja Ras. So the jiva has to come into his own sovereignty or power, so to speak, so that he can have a relationship with that Supreme Lord. His potential has to be developed to come to serve that Lord. I hope you understand. In the Sankhya philosophy, the Purusha is described to be always indifferent to the activities of greeting. The Sankhya philosopher accepts three kinds of evidences, namely direct perception, hypothesis, and traditional authority. When such evidence is complete, everything is perfect. Again, we're talking about the Sankhyarites. The process of comparison is within such perfection. Beyond such evidence, there is no proof. There is not much controversy regarding direct perceptual evidence or authorized traditional evidence. It all becomes a little bit hazy for the Sankhyarites if they're actually pushed right down to the wire, so to speak, and questioned about their philosophy. It becomes very flaky compared to what Baladev Vidyabhushan is going to present. The Sankhya system, because if you don't have acknowledgement of the Supreme Lord and devotional service to the Supreme Lord, the whole equation is like a big zero. It has no effect. You're just bringing the Jivatma back into an impersonal Brahman type of conception. And the Jiva, wants to go that way, so then it can happen that way. That's why education is so necessary, so that we can clearly see what is the real path of devotion. The Sankhya system of philosophy identifies three kinds of procedures, namely parinamat, transformation, or parinam we can say, samanvyat, adjustment, and shaktiha, performance of energies, as the causes of the cosmic manifestation. So he's saying transformation, adjustment, and by energy this world has manifested. He's not saying that the Supreme Mahapurusha has manifested. He's not bringing in the quality of pure devotion. Mahaprabhu comes himself to give this ingredient because he's devoted to Sri Radhika. So we're getting it so much more strongly than it would be otherwise. Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, in his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, has tried to nullify this conclusion because he thinks that discrediting these so-called causes of cosmic manifestation will nullify the entire Sankhya philosophy. How beautiful. Baladev Vidyabhushan desires to purify this Sankhya philosophy completely. Materialistic philosophers accept matter to be the material and efficient cause of creation. This is just, a simple man can accept that. How can matter create something from matter? We might have the example of a child being born, but the child is manifesting from the father. There always has to be a relationship with ultimately the spiritual connection for the creation to manifest. There's no other way it can manifest. Prabhupada will explain. This is one of Prabhupada's favorite topics. Life comes from life. Materialistic philosophers accept matter to be the material and efficient cause of creation. For them, matter is the cause of every type of manifestation. Everything's coming from matter. Generally, they give the example of a water pot and clay. Clay is the cause of the water pot, but the clay is found in both the cause and the effect. The clay is there at the beginning and the clay is there at the end of the product in the water pot. The water pot is the effect and clay itself is the cause. So that means from matter, an object has come. But where did the clay come? And then Prabhupada says, but clay is visible everywhere. So the clay is already there. So where did the clay come from? A tree is matter, but a tree produces fruit. Water is matter, but water flows. In this way, say the Sankharites, matter is the cause of movements and production. As such, matter can be considered the material and efficient cause of everything in the cosmic manifestation. Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan has therefore enunciated the nature of Pradhan as follows. So now we're going to hear the Vedic conclusion. So this was all the unpacking the Sankarite philosophy. So now we're going to go into the pure conclusion. Material nature is inert, dull, and as such it cannot be the cause of matter. It can't be the cause, it's dull. Neither as the material nor as the efficient cause. In either way, it can't be the cause. It can't trigger anything because it's dull, it's inert. Seeing the wonderful arrangement and management of the cosmic manifestation generally suggests that a living brain is behind this arrangement. For without a living brain, such an arrangement could not exist. Isn't that so simple? One should not imagine that such an arrangement can exist without conscious direction. In our practical experience, we never see that inert bricks can themselves construct a big building. And I gave you the example the other day. They say that statistically, it's practically impossible to place a statistic on if you took a watch or a clock and separated all the components and then you threw it into the air and expected it to come down in a working order. It's completely absurd. So this is how sometimes Prabhupada calls them material scientists, now we're calling them Sankhyarites, because Baladev Vidyabhushan is directly purifying this Sankhya philosophy here. The example of the water pot cannot be accepted because a water pot has no perception of pleasure and distress. There's no subtle aspect to it. There's no soul to the water pot example. Such perception is within. Therefore, the covering body or the water pot cannot be synchronized with it. There must be something else besides the water pot. Sometimes the material scientists suggest that trees grow from the earth automatically. It appears that way sometimes. You clear a piece of shrub land and trees will manifest. But the trees aren't coming from matter. Each tree will have a soul in it that's been generated by the Supreme Soul. They also consider the intuition of living creatures from birth to be material. Everything they're putting down as material. But such material tendencies as bodily intuition cannot be accepted as independent, for they suggest the existence of a spirit soul within the body. Everything is generated by spirit, not by matter. Actually, neither the tree nor any other body of a living creature has any tendency or intuition. The tendency and intuition exists because the soul is present within the body. Intuition means the desire to serve, the desire for service, etc. A tree doesn't have that desire unless it's connected somehow or other. A tree's state of consciousness is called achadita chetana. It's the lowest type of consciousness. Yet still, we see in Braj these trees are considered kalpavriksha trees, that they're not ordinary trees, and that a tree in the spiritual world has consciousness, and that consciousness is coming from the Supreme Consciousness. So if a tree hears the sound of the holy name every single day, it's going to have some effect on the soul of that tree. Wherever we are, if we're walking, doing our japa in the countryside, etc., chanting very loudly, Srila Haridas Thakur used to say like this, the grasses and shrubs and the lower creatures, they will get some effect of the sound vibration of that holy name. And perhaps in a future birth, they will also come more quickly to accept that Supreme Person. The only reason why we don't accept the Supreme Person, is because of our ingrained envy. We want to be like that person. We want to be the enjoyers. And we talked about this in the Nityananda chapter. This is Mayavad. We want to enjoy Maya. Actually, neither the tree nor any other body of a living creature has any tendency or intuition. The tendency and intuition exists because the soul is present within the body. In this connection, the example of a car, this is very simple to understand. The driver may be given very profitably. The example of a car and driver may be given very profitably. The car has a tendency to turn right and left, but one cannot say that the car itself, as matter, turns right and left without the direction of a driver. A material car has neither tendencies nor intuitions independent of the intentions of the driver of the car. Very, very simple analogy. Perfect analogy to understand what we're talking about. There has to be spirit. Matter cannot create by itself. The same principle applies for the automatic growth of trees in the forest. The growth takes place because the soul's presence within the tree. When the soul is present within the seed of that tree, then it will germinate in the ground. Without the soul, it cannot germinate. It's not generating from the earth itself, which is matter, dull matter. It's generating from the soul within the seed. Sometimes foolish people take it for granted that because scorpions are born from heaps of rice, the rice has produced the scorpions. The real fact, however, is that the mother scorpion lays eggs within the rice, and by the proper fermentation of the rice, the eggs give birth to several baby scorpions, which in due course come out. This does not mean that the rice gives birth to the scorpions, so don't try and come with this example. We see that scorpions come from rice, it appears, but actually the eggs have been laid by the female scorpion in the rice. Similarly, sometimes bugs are seen to come out from dirty beds. This does not mean, however, that the beds give birth to the bugs. These are all very graphic, simple examples to show that matter can't come from matter. Matter has to only come from spirit. It is the living soul that comes forth, taking advantage of the dirty condition of the bed. There are different kinds of living creatures. Some of them come from embryos, some from eggs, and some from the fermentation of perspiration. Different living creatures have different sources of appearance, but one should not conclude that matter produces such living creatures. Prabhupada is going very deep on this. Maybe we already appreciate this, but when we hear the depth of the presentation of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, it gives us great strength to clearly see the distinction between matter and spirit. Matter can't produce matter. Nothing can be produced without matter. It has to have the living seed. Like the mother can't become pregnant without the seed from the father. There has to be the seed impregnating the mother. The example cited by materialists that trees automatically come from the earth follows the same principle. Taking advantage of a certain condition, a living entity comes from the earth. He's manifested by the rains, the Jivatma, and he manifests from the earth. According to the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, every living being is forced by divine superintendence to take a certain type of body according to his past deeds. There are many varieties of bodies, and because of a divine arrangement, a living entity takes bodies of different shapes. This whole universe is so astonishing and miraculous, and it's all astonishing because the Supreme Lord is astonishing, not because the world is astonishing by itself without the Lord. If you see a beautiful landscape and you're appreciating Krishna as the creator of this landscape, then you're getting only a fraction of the real beauty of that landscape without the ingredient of Krishna. When a person thinks, I am doing this, the I am does not refer to the body. It refers to something more than the body or within the body. As such, the body, as it has neither tendencies nor intuition, the body is made of dull matter, but the soul is residing within it, just exactly like the driver is residing in the car. The car can't go to the left or right without the driver inside. The body can't function without the soul outside. What's the difference between a dead body and a live body? The dead body doesn't have the spirit soul acting inside it. So this is the distinction. These are all basic truths, really, from Bhagavad Gita, principally, from the first chapters of Bhagavad Gita. But they sometimes get presented philosophically in very strong ways, like the Sankarites and so on, like the Advaitavadis. And people without proper knowledge can become bewildered by their language and think, oh, that's very, very high. Yes, I should follow that. Ultimately, yes, matter comes from matter. No, we have to know this conclusively. This is Vedanta Sutra speaking. My Guru, Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, has said that we should all understand something of Vedanta Sutra. It's most important. It's the backbone of our philosophical understanding. When a person thinks, I am doing this, the I am does not refer to the body. It refers to something more than the body or within the body. As such, the body, as it is, has neither tendencies nor intuition. The tendencies and intuition, this means the free will, etc., belong to the soul within the body. Material scientists sometimes suggest that the tendencies of male and female bodies cause their union, and that this is the cause of the birth of a child. But since the Purush, according to Sankhya philosophy, is always unaffected, where does the tendency to give birth come from? Prabhupada just destroys the Sankhya philosophy completely. If there's no tendency within dull matter, then where does the product of dull matter come from? If there's no inspiration, where is the inspiration? Who is giving the inspiration? I don't know if I'm speaking clearly or not. It's very high philosophy or deep philosophy, but I think it's very logical if we just consider intelligently, with a cool brain, these topics. They'll be, as Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj said, even a fool can understand. Sometimes material scientists give the example that milk turns into curd automatically, and that distilled water pouring from the clouds falls down on earth, produces different kinds of trees, and enters different kinds of flowers and fruits with different fragrances and tastes. Therefore, they say matter produces varieties of material things on its own. This is a fundamental, that matter can produce such a variegated variety of species, etc., all coming from matter only. In reply to this argument, the same proposition of the Brihat Aranyaka Upanishad, that different kinds of living entities are put into different kinds of bodies by the management of a superior power, is repeated. Under superior superintendence, various souls, according to their past activities, are given the chance to take a particular type of body, such as that of a tree, animal, bird, or beast, and thus their different tendencies develop under these circumstances. The Bhagavad Gita 13.22 also further confirms, Parusha prakritisto hi punkte prakriti jan guna karanan guna sango sya sad asad yoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. So in our interaction with material nature, we experience joyfulness and unhappiness. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. The soul is given different types of bodies. For example, were souls not given varieties of tree bodies, the different varieties of fruits and flowers could not be produced. Each spirit soul ultimately is totally unique. It's not that we see a forest of trees and think they're all of a similar nature at all. If you see them in a million years' time, those same trees, if they've evolved through the species, they all become completely different personalities. They all have their individual distinctive rasa, their unique rasa with Krishna ultimately. So no living entity is the same. So the trees, they have their variety and their fruits and their blossoms according to the nature of the soul within it. Each class of tree produces a particular kind of fruit and flower. It is not that there is no distinction between the different classes, even though you see a forest of mango trees. They're all the same fruits, but they're all differently shaped, etc. But they're producing the same fruits, but they're still individual entities. They're not all one because they still must have individual souls to grow. What are the characteristics of a soul? It takes birth, it grows, it has offspring, it reproduces, it dwindles, and it ultimately dies. These are just, there's another one in between there, but basically that's the cycle of the living entities. Birth, and then they grow, and they endure for some time, then they reproduce, then they dwindle, and then they die. Yes, that's 6 stages of the journey of the soul in all conditions. An individual tree does not produce flowers of different colors or fruits of different tastes. There are demarcated classes as we find them among humans, animals, birds, and other species. There are innumerable living entities, and their activities performed in the material world according to the different qualities of the material modes of nature give them the chance to have different kinds of lives. Yes, we all are incredibly unique, even though we're all in the human species, but we all have absolute uniqueness. Thus one should understand that pradhan, matter, cannot act unless impelled by a living entity. We described before, pradhan is like the unconglomerate energy, so to speak, like a womb of a mother prior to inception of the father, prior to the injection of the seed. That pradhan is primordial soup, it's sometimes called. That primordial soup is like matter. It has no cohesiveness without the injection of the seed manifesting from the person, Mahavishnu, who is Advaita Acharya. That's why we're discussing this. Thus one should understand that pradhan, matter, cannot act unless impelled by a living creature. The materialistic theory that matter independently acts cannot therefore be accepted. Matter is called prakriti. Yes, matter that has become activated is called prakriti, which refers to female energy. All female energy is described as, or all prakriti is described as female, because ultimately it's in a mood of service to the Purush. The Purush is one. The Purush is Swayam Bhagavan, coming through the Chatuvyuha, as we've discussed, through Mul Sankarshan, Mahasankarshan, etc. Coming from Lord Narayan through Karanadakshay Vishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu. This is the Purush. And the Prakriti is serving that Purush. A woman is Prakriti, a female. A female cannot produce a child without the association of a Purush. A man. The Purush causes the birth of a child because the man injects the semen. Injects the soul, which is sheltered in the semen, into the womb of the woman. The woman is the material cause, supplies the body of the soul, and as the efficient cause, she gives birth to the child. So she's the material cause and the efficient cause. But actually, ultimately, it's coming from the injection of the seed. But although the woman appears to be the material and efficient cause of the birth of a child, originally the Purush, the male, is the cause of the child. So simple. Without the injection of the soul, of the semen from the male, then the female cannot give birth. It seems like the female is just giving birth to the children. But we understand, no, that she has to be fertilized, so to speak, by the male. But although the woman appears to be the material and efficient cause of the birth of the child, originally the Purush, the male, is the cause of the child. So this is how we're going to come to clearly that the ultimate Purush. Similarly, this material world gives rise to varieties of manifestations due to the entrance of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu within the universe. How wonderful. Without this reality of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, nothing can manifest, because it's just simply matter. He is present not only within the universe, but within the bodies of all living creatures, as well as within the atom, as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Paramatma. We understand from the Brahma Samhita that the Supersoul is present within the universe, within the atom, and within the heart of every living entity, every living creature. Therefore, the theory that matter is the cause of the entire cosmic manifestation cannot be accepted by any man with sufficient knowledge of matter and spirit. And Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is so generously giving us this clear knowledge of how that could absolutely never be. We're surrounded by people who think like this. If they thought and understood about the Supreme Creator, the Supreme Purush, then the whole world would be focusing its attention on connecting again with its dormant, pure relationship with that Lord. That's our nature. We're Vibhinamsa Tattva. We've come from the Lord. And our only happiness, satisfaction is going to be when we're reunited with the Lord in service, in devotional service. Materialists sometimes give the argument that as straw eaten by a cow produces milk automatically, so material nature under different circumstances produces varieties of manifestations. Listen carefully, this is brilliant. Thus, originally, matter is the cause, yes. Straw is the cause of milk. That's what they're saying. This is how fictitious this philosophy is of Sankaracharya or the Mayavads. Straw can produce milk. Thus, originally, matter is the cause. Originally, straw was the cause of milk. In refuting this argument, we may say that an animal of the same species as the cow, namely the bull, who eats straw like the cow, but does not produce milk. So where is your theory then? Under the circumstances, it cannot be said that straw in connection with a particular species produces milk. The conclusion should be that there is superior management, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, where the Lord says, Maya dakshena prakriti suryate sacharacharam. The material nature is working under my direction. This material nature is working under my direction. It's not independent of me. When we understand this one point, then surely our devotion will increase. The Supreme Lord says, Maya dakshena, under my superintendence. When he desires that the cow produce milk by eating straw, there is milk. When he does not so desire it, the mixture of straw cannot produce milk. In the way of material nature, if the way of material nature had been that straw produced milk, a stack of straw could also produce milk, but that is not possible. And the same straw given to a human female also cannot produce milk. That is the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita statement that only under superior orders does anything take place. Matter itself has no power to produce independently. The conclusion, therefore, is that matter, which has no self-knowledge, cannot be the cause of the material creation. The ultimate creator is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's sublime Sankhya philosophy, it's called, that actually Kapila Dev gave to Devabhuti. This is not the Sankhya philosophy we've just discussed. But this is the philosophy of logically understanding the reality of the personality of the Lord. If matter were accepted as the original cause of creation, all the authorized scriptures in the world would be useless. For in every scripture, especially the Vedic scriptures, like the Manu Smriti, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is said to be the ultimate creator. The Manu Smriti is considered the highest Vedic direction to humanity. Manu is the giver of law to mankind. And in the Manu Smriti, it is clearly stated that before the creation, the entire universal space was darkness, without information and without variety, and was in a state of complete suspension, like a dream. Everything was darkness. the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then entered the universal space, and although he is invisible, he created the invisible cosmic manifestation. In the material world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not manifested by his personal presence, but the presence of the cosmic manifestation in different varieties is the proof that everything has been created under his direction. He entered the universe with all creative potencies, and thus he removed the darkness of the unlimited space. It's very beautiful to appreciate the greatness of the Lord, because in this way we're appreciating the greatness of Advaita Acharya, because he is the manifestation of this. He's the, I said at the beginning, the Bhakta Avatar, which means the devotional manifestation. He's manifesting this devotional world. Nityananda is Bhakta Swarup. He's devotional inspiration, we can say. The form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described to be transcendental, very subtle, eternal, all-pervading, inconceivable, and therefore non-manifested to the material senses of a conditioned living creature. He desired to expand himself into many living entities, and with such a desire, he created a vast expanse of water within the eternal space, and then impregnated that water with living entities. We should understand who is desiring here. Ultimately, Swarup Shakti is desiring. The Lord himself doesn't desire. The Lord interacts with his potency of desire. The potency of desire, Shakti, only desires to please the Lord. So the Lord is pleased by this Swarup Shakti's manifestation of all the worlds. Everything is manifesting from Swarup Shakti, from Sri Radha. Krishna is completely independent and totally with full freedom. That's his nature. And he's totally self-satisfied. But Shakti wants to please him, even though he's self-satisfied. So all of these worlds that are created are in a way, in her, they're being manifested to please him, of devotion, acts of devotion. And Swarup Shakti is inspiring the Sandini Shakti, Nityananda, that we've just discussed, and how he creates from Mul Sankashan, Mahasankashan, etc. He creates in this way. And now we're going to describe how Advaita Acharya, he manifests this cosmic world. So there's a distinction here between the incarnation of devotion, which is Nityananda, and the manifestation of devotion, which is Advaita Acharya. He desired to expand himself in many living entities, and with such a desire, he first created a vast expanse of water within the universe. It's probably easier for us just to consider him all the time, that final Purush. But ultimately, I'm always putting in an appreciation that it's actually not him, it's his energy who is doing this, Swarup Shakti. And then impregnated that water with living entities. By that process of impregnation, a massive body appeared, blazing like 1,000 suns, and in that body was the first creative principle, Brahma. The great Parashara Rishi has confirmed this in the Vishnu Purana. He says that the cosmic manifestation visible to us is produced from Lord Vishnu and sustained under his protection. He is the principal maintainer and destroyer of the universal form. This cosmic manifestation is one with the diverse energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One in the sense that it's all manifesting from the one energy, the one principal divine energy, but it's variegated within it. Sankarshan is distinct from Krishna, from Narayan, and Garbhodakshay Vishnu is Vishnu Tattva, but he's distinct from Lord Narayan also, and Paramatma is distinct also. They're all distinct. They all have, just like all the living entities are distinct. They're not all one, but the energy is one. That's what's being spoken about. Lord Vishnu has sustained under his protection. He is the principal maintainer and destroyer of the universal form. This cosmic manifestation is one of the diverse energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a spider secretes saliva and weaves a web by its own movements, but in the end winds up the web within its body, so Lord Vishnu produces this cosmic manifestation by his transcendental body, and at the end winds it up within himself. All the great sages of the Vedic understanding have accepted that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original creator. The heart will sing when it hears these truths. If we've been attached and connected with matter, of course we all have for billions of births, and to hear the actual truth, it will cut through this illusion wonderfully. It is sometimes claimed that the impersonal speculations of great philosophers are meant for the advancement of knowledge without religious ritualistic principles, but the religious ritualistic principles are actually meant for the advancement of spiritual knowledge. The sages have created these rituals, etc., the formalities, because it has to go through a channel. It can't just be all over the place. There has to be etiquette, there has to be direction, there has to be clear rules and regulations, just like there are everywhere in our world are rules and regulations. What's the most popular activity perhaps on the planet is football. If you had football without rules and regulations, you wouldn't have football, would you? You couldn't have a game. Even the game that lovers play has certain rules, etc., that are there. So of course there's rules. There's God's rules, and the sages have enunciated these rules to direct us, turn away from the material energy and turn towards Krishna, principally. Everything you do in the material energy, offer it to Krishna, for example. It is sometimes claimed that the impersonal speculations of great philosophers are meant for the advancement of knowledge without ritualistic principles, but the ritualistic principles are actually meant for the advancement of spiritual knowledge. By performance of religious rituals, one ultimately reaches the supreme goal of knowledge by understanding that Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. It is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita that even those who are advocates of knowledge alone, without any ritualistic process, advance in knowledge for many, many lifetimes of speculations, and thus come to the conclusion that Vasudeva is the supreme cause of everything that be. So rather than just go that route, we should go the personal route. As a result of this achievement of the goal of life, such an advanced learned scholar or philosopher surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ritualistic performances are actually meant to cleanse the contaminated mind in the material world. And the special feature of this age is that one can easily execute the process of cleansing the mind of contamination by chanting the holy names of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A Vedic injunction states, Sarve Veda Yat Padam Amananti. Katha Upanishad 1.2.15. All the Vedic knowledge is searching after the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, another Vedic injunction states, Narayana Para Vedaha. The Vedas are meant for understanding. Narayan, the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the Bhagavad Gita also confirms, Vedas cha sarvai aham eva vedya. By all the Vedas, Krishna is to be known. Therefore, the main purpose of understanding the Vedas, performing Vedic sacrifice, and speculating on the Vedanta Sutra is to understand Krishna. Accepting the impersonalist view of voidness, or the non-existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, negates all study of the Vedas. Impersonal speculation aims at disproving the conclusion of the Vedas. That's the Mayavas. Therefore, any impersonal speculative presentation should be understood to be against the principles of the Vedas, or standard scriptures. Since the speculation of the impersonalist does not follow the principles of the Vedas, their conclusion must be considered to be against the Vedic principles. Anything not supported by the Vedic principles must be considered imaginary and lacking in standard proof. Therefore, no impersonal explanation of any Vedic literature can be accepted. Mahaprabhu would never accept any whiff of impersonalism in any doctrine, any poem, etc., that was presented to him. If one tries to nullify the conclusions of the Vedas by accepting an unauthorized scripture or so-called scripture, it will be very hard for him to come to the right conclusion about the absolute truth. The market is littered with bogus literatures. If we take that wrong information and start to meditate and practice on it, it's not going to have a successful conclusion, because the only successful conclusion is in the Vedic teachings. It's only the Veda, which are ultimately emanating from the Lord himself. When the system for adjusting two contradictory scriptures is to refer to the Vedas, for references from the Vedas are accepted as final judgments. When we refer to a particular scripture, it must be authorized, and for this authority, it must strictly follow the Vedic injunctions. If someone presents an alternative doctrine he himself has manufactured, that doctrine will prove itself useless. For any doctrine that tries to prove that Vedic evidence is meaningless immediately proves itself meaningless. The followers of the Vedas unanimously accept the authority of Manu and Parashuram in the disciplic succession. Their statements, however, do not support the atheistic Kapila, because the Kapila mentioned in the Vedas is a different Kapila, the son of Kadama and Devahuti. The atheist Kapila is a descendant of the dynasty of Agni and is one of the conditioned souls. But the Kapila, who is the son of Kadama Muni, is accepted as an incarnation of Vasudeva. The Padma Purana gives evidence that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, takes birth in the incarnation of Kapila, and by his expansion of theistic Sankhya philosophy. That's what I said previously. We have this Sankhya philosophy in the third canto, which is sublime, very logical, step by step, taking the understanding of the elements, of the senses, etc., walking through very clearly. This is the theistic Kapila Dev, not the atheistic Kapila. Teaches all the demigods and a Brahmana of the name of Asuri. In the doctrine of the atheist Kapila, there are many statements directly against the Vedic principles. The atheist Kapila does not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He says that the living entity is himself the Supreme Lord and that no one is greater than him. His conceptions of so-called conditioned and liberated life are materialistic, and he refuses to accept the importance of immortal time. All such statements are against the principles of Vedanta Sutras. So liberation, according to the impersonalist, is liberated from matter. But we're not made of matter anyway, we're made of spirit. So where are they going to go to if they've just negated the material form? They come into a void because there's nothing there, there's no variety, there's no sambandha, there's no relationship. Liberation just means like as if you're banging your head against the wall and then you suddenly stop. Does that mean all of a sudden you're happy? How can you be happy if you haven't recognized your soul? And how can you be without recognizing the relationship of the soul with the Supreme? So all of these matters make for very profound meditation and contemplation. And that was a very long, weighty purport by Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He said, as we've said before, his ecstasies are in his purports. So I'm sure Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was in his... We could turn around for the next probably 1 month and read this again and again and again and again and pick so many areas of it. We can think for the rest of our lives we have this in our pockets we have these writings, we know where they are. Even if you haven't understood so much of the conceptions, principally we spoke about Baladev Vidyabhushan debunking the Sankhya philosophy, and he's explaining what is the Sankhya philosophy. And then Prabhupada in the second part of the purport beautifully glorifies personalism and the theistic perception of everything in a very sublime way, and smashes the idea that matter can come from matter, that life can only come from life. So this is a wonderful purport, and I hope you've had the patience to hear it at least one time, and then if we're fortunate to hear it many times, just to create our own very strong foundation for where we're going to go with this Caitanya Caritamrta. We're going to go the very highest conception of relationship with the Lord through the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so we need the very strongest foundation. So Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu Ki Jai, because he represents this particular foundation that we're talking about. This will be made clear, because Advaita Acharya, he is that material cause as well as the nimitta cause, as well as the initiating cause. He's both. This is Advaita Acharya. So now we've got a better idea of that. So Caitanya Caritamrta Ki Jai, Ananta Gauta Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, O Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gauda Hari Bol, Nitai Gauda Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gauda Hari Bol, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Vanshakapatrubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevcha, Patitanam Parnabhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai, Go Premanandi, Advaita Acharya Ki Jai, Go Premanandi.